Trackside here at Gloucester Park with Tom Buchanan. He's got a good book of drives on Saturday night at Bunbury. Happy hunting ground for Tom Buchanan. Here's Bunbury. First of the drives, as I've got it all, it's been bumping into a couple of nice ones. Tommy, it's really copped another couple of nice ones. Delightful Jade's drawn in 2 and Blacklist in 3, and not a nice draw for you, but he's going well.
Yeah, she's not a bad horse. She's got I'd say above average ability, but like you said, she's been running into a couple of nice ones lately, and the draw doesn't really help this time. She's been racing in smaller fields, so it's nearly a full field. She hasn't really been running into that lately, and the draw makes it tricky. Delightful Jade looks the likely leader and will probably be hard to beat. And as you touched on, Blacklist as well, obviously showed ability as a 2-year-old, so it probably will be tricky from that draw. But going forward, I definitely think she can win races.
She's one to follow in the future. Race 3, Who's a Clever Dan's drawn barrier 2, where Michael Ferguson's been driving as a later mate of yours. Been a little bit unlucky in the fields he's been in. He's got a bit of pace, and this is very much a winnable race for him. Yeah,
down in class a lot on where he's been racing, Matty. I think I'd say he'd be my best driver of the night. I think if he finds the top, he'll be winning. But I certainly think he's got the gate speed too. But if something happens, the one causes a bit of a headache, it might be a little bit harder for him because he definitely grows a leg in front. So if we find the top, I think he's definitely be winning. But whether we can, that's the question.
You've got to make sure of that, Tommy. That's why you're out there. Legendary Lou's drawn barrier 3. Lombo Supremo's drawn barrier 1. You're in the centre with It's Dark and Stormy in the 4th race. He's been really getting back to some of his better form, but this is a pretty hot field.
Yeah, it is. It's quite a nice field, but I've been really happy with the way he's been going. I thought last start he just went super. He's done a power of work. Didn't find the front until after about 700 or 800 metres, so he's probably got his first half in about 57, finding the top. They've run super time, and he's really held in there really well. I think if he finds the front again, he'd be super hard to beat, but I'd think the one would want to hold up, so that makes our task a little bit tricky. But like I said, he's been racing well. He's certainly getting back towards what he's capable of, so he'll be winning races soon, yeah.
Another one to follow. Reckless Abandon drawn barrier 1. Harriet Elizabeth out in 7 makes things tough, and Mon Lilies is on your back, but with the sprint lane, you've got options from the draw. Yeah,
the sprint lane will suit her down to the ground. I think she's been racing a lot better than her numerical form suggests. I think the step up to 2100 will suit her. Last couple of races only been over a mile, which doesn't really suit her, but Harriet Elizabeth looks the class runner by far, and our gate speed might be a little bit of a tricky one because I know there's a fair bit of speed outside her. So if she happens to get crossed and then those horses hand over, she could find herself barred away on the pegs. But she's definitely racing better than, like I said, than her numerical form suggests. So hopefully won't be too far away.
Race 7, this is very much a winnable race for this fellow. Estello, he's third up from a spell. Good second, first up. Last start, they just ran a ridiculous last 1200, and he put in a little bit of a hop and a skip like he used to do. But this is a good race for him over the longer trip. Do you think he's a good chance?
I do, Matty. I was a little bit disappointed with his last run. They did run really good time, but I thought at his best he should have been able to, at least not lose as much ground as he did. I thought he was probably dropped out a lot worse than I was expecting. So, like you said, first up he went super. If he brings that run to the table tomorrow night, then I think he's certainly the one to beat. But his last effort just put a little bit of a question mark in my mind. And over the 2500, I'm not sure whether he's quite suited to that. But I certainly think if he brings his best form to the table, then he's certainly the one to beat. But as I said, whether he does, he's a frustrating horse. But hopefully he brings his best to the table, and it's another good drive for me.
He's a bit of an enigma, and Powerless in the last drawn barrier 1. Plenty of options for Powerless. You're probably pretty much spot on with your first summary of that horse a few weeks ago. Place chance? Yeah,
the draw helps him. He certainly needed it. If he had drawn 7, I probably would have told John to scratch him and leave him in the stall. But from barrier 1, he's a chance of earning. It's an RAL1 field. Those fields are generally not very strong, and this one's no exception. So with the right run, if he had the gate speed to hold, I'd probably look to hold because he's a bit one-paced, but I'm not sure how he'd get out the gate because we've never really used him out the gate. But so it's a bit of a unknown waters with this bloke because first up he didn't really get any luck. But I think, like I said, it's not the best of fields, so I'd like to think he'd be a first 4 or 5 prospect, but you just never really know in these RR1 races.
Oh, he should get a nice run. Moving on to Monday, and you've got one drive in race number 1 for Group 1 Gaza, in Group 1 Gary Olsen, that is, for the people playing at home. And that's one for Sassy, having its first up run. Trials, I've seen it in trials, haven't been 100% flash, but as you said, it's an R8R1, like we were just talking about Palace, and you've got a nice draw.
Yeah, good draw. I haven't spoken to Gary much about this horse. He just told me he was putting him on, so I'll know a bit more on Monday. But like you said, his trial form looks just fair, so But some horses get to the races and find a couple of lengths. Hopefully he can do this, and like you said, for a good trainer in Gary Elson, we might not be too far away.
Disco Joe Sue's been racing well for Ross Ashby. It's in race 4, drawn alongside of Harper Grace over the mile. Makes it a lot tougher, but definitely racing well.
Yeah, racing really well. Like touched on, the one certainly looks the horse to beat. Hopefully from barrier 2 he won't be too far from him. There's a couple out wider that have certainly got their own share of ability. So from barrier 2, hopefully we're close enough to him, and I think she's first 4 prospect. Yeah.
Meet George Jetson over the miles, drawn barrier 5. First run back with Gary Elson since I think he was about a 3-year-old, so he may improve here. It's get out of here. It's got to be very, very hard to beat, so probably running for place money.
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, he certainly looks the one to beat, and there's a couple other smart ones. I'm a Tragedy on the back line is also a very nice horse. So, like you said, this horse does have his fair share of ability. Hopefully Gary can find a couple of links with him coming back into his stable. So, with a nice run in transit, like I said, it might be another just a first 4 or 5 prospect again. Yeah.
And in race 7, talk about Max drawn 2. She's been really racing quite well lately. This is a nice hot field for her with several chances, but with the draw, she could figure in the money.
Yeah, I think she can definitely play a part. Barrier 2 certainly helps her, but there are a couple of really nice horses in that field. So, again, with the previous trial from barrier 2, they're always going to be handy, to the speed, so they're not going to be too far from them. If they go hard up front, she's sort of sitting camped on them. I think she's certainly a chance to run over top because she's been racing quite nicely lately. But she's going to need a few things to fall their way. But we'll see how we go. And
best of the weekend, you think would be Who's a Clever Dan?
Yeah, I think Who's a Clever Dan, and if It's Stuck and Stormy can find the top, I think they're probably my 2 best drives. I think Who's a Clever Dan's probably a better chance of finding the front, which leaves him as my best chance of the weekend. Yeah.
Well, best of luck over the weekend, mate. Thanks for your time, and best of luck tonight.
Thanks, Matty.